Today is June 3rd, 2009. I am Andrea Mott. It is a pleasure to conduct this interview for the Dakota Memories Oral History Project in Napoleon, North Dakota. Can you please state your full name?
John G. Becker.
When and where were you born?
I was born in Logan County. Well, I was born in Bismarck. And then they brought me home. Logan County, Hills Township.
Have you ever heard an interesting story about your birth?
Not much. I don't know why I was born. The rest were born at home. I don't know why.
Do you know if a midwife or doctor was present?
I think a doctor, because mother had problems. There was a stillborn born before I was.
Can you please share some of your earliest memories with us?
With you guys? My school days, that's all. Growing up. Really haven't got many. I can't really relate back.
Well, what's the earliest thing you remember?
Well, when I went to my first grade, was staying with my grandma, and they drove with horse and sled took me to school. And then after her son died, remember that? In the same house. And there was a hard winter, a lot of snow, and then folks didn't seem to get to me every weekend because of so much snow. They had to travel by horse. So I was homesick.
Did you like country school?
Yes, I didn't have another choice. If I'd have went to a better school, I probably had a little better education. I don't know.
And where did you go to school first?
In Stargate Township was my first grade. Then later on, at home was Hills Township. There I entered the 7th grade. That was it. But my dad kept me back, and I stayed back, and then when I was come to school, I was behind. You lost interest.
I'm going to transition slightly. Why do you think it's important to tell your life story?
I'd like to tell my grandkids or my sons the hardships that were. I know my grandkids, they don't believe when you try to tell them, but we never had a shower, we never had an indoor toilet, an outhouse, what they call it. In school, we had a dish pan to wash our hands. We had to go outhouse, coal shed, bring the coal in for the teacher. Every morning we come to school, the schoolhouse was cold. Had to start a fire. And we had some good days sliding with hills. A lot of fun.
With your schoolmates?
Yeah.
So you go sledding, and what other kind of games would you play?
Hide and go seek and Andy over, and made our own entertainment, I suppose.
What kind of meals would you take to school?
We had our lunch pail.
Mm-hmm. What would you put in your lunch pail?
Mother fixed it, I don't know, peanut butter bread, jelly sandwich, and then potted meat. Carried our water. There was no such a thing as pop.
Or bottled water.
No bottled water, no.
And that's what you hope to pass down to your kids and your grandchildren.
Yep.
Were there any other thoughts or observations you would care to add?
Not really, except for what went through the service. A lot of memories there. Even I didn't have to go and fight, but had no other choice.
What was it like being drafted?
Well, it was hard. I never was going from home. I couldn't call home. After I was in a year, it got better. Got over my homesick.
Did you come right back home when you got out?
Got home and I didn't know what to do.
Was it different?
Yeah, it was different. I didn't know what to do. When Dad never said nothing what to do. And finally ran right back out and started helping and started working.
Is that how you adjusted? Just getting back into farm work?
Then we got married. That winter right of January. I come home in September and we got married for this January. Made a good life change.
So you got married pretty soon after coming back?
All my friends were married. Everybody's married.
You came back and got married?
Yep.
Anything else you want to add?
Not really.
John, tell me about this painting.
Well, I don't know who done the painting, but the painting is originally where my grandpa started out. You see over here at the front, it's the sod house where they lived, and the back was the barn. And on to the right there is the house where Grandpa left off when he moved to town. And my dad took over. And the family, our family, my dad's family, we all were born and raised in this house until the other one was replaced. But I see the well, that was earlier the well, it's not there. The well was down below where they, I suppose, bucket the water by hand. And the barn up over here on the right, was Lincoln, was a bigger barn than this, but my dad, we tore the barn down later on and replaced it with another barn. Same with the house, that moved another house and remodeled. And we tore the house down.
And was this your maternal or paternal grandfather who came over and started this homestead?
My grandpa, Becker grandpa.
Oh, Becker grandpa, okay. So your father's dad.
Yeah, my dad. He come over here with 6 siblings. Mm-hmm. And I assume they lived, when they homesteaded it, that's where they lived. And they had 2 more were born to them after. But they're all gone.
What can you tell us about the farmhouse? What did it look like inside?
Well, the front part was added. The back part here was old schoolhouse where Grandpa moved in, and the other one was an old house. But a half mile south of the one-room house was a half mile south of the place, and he moved that together, and he put it together, and then they added another bedroom in the back. And we lived in it. It was a cold house, but we lived in it for till 46. Dad replaced with another one.
Was it actually red and white like it shows here in the painting? Or
Yes, that's exactly what it looked like.
exactly what it looked like. Okay. And what did they use this barn for?
I assume for a few horses and cattle, what they had. They didn't have much when I assume that's what they had it for. I didn't ask I just found this picture about 5 years ago when we cleaned out the house at my brother's. That was there, and I kept it.
John, can you tell me who's in this photo and maybe what they're doing in this photo on the left?
Yes, this is Grandma Joseph's brothers and sisters. There was only one sister, 4 brothers, and Grandma.
Okay. And do you know whose home they were in when this was taken?
No, I don't. I don't know whose home they were taken.
And how about the photo on the right?
That was at my grandma's homestead.
And that's your grandma?
That's my grandma, grandpa. The farm that they grew, that they lived on, that they built up.
What do you remember about your grandma the most?
Well, when she babysat us, and when she got older, we spent some time with her. Come to town. When she moved to town, we come and visit her. And even on the farm, we come home a lot. And even when I went to school over there, I was staked out because in our township there was no school, so I went over. Folks put me over there to go to my first grade. I spent all winter over there. So I always had to sit there at night first. She was known for that.
And about your grandpa? What do you remember about
That was before me. I don't know nothing. He was
just me, your grandma?
he was dead.
Okay. And do you know where they were? Whose home?
That's in their home, at their house on the farm. It was fairly new home.
Okay.
Homestead.
Your Grandma Joe's?
Grandma Joe's. And I believe this picture was last with the trees around, was my uncle lived on it when he left the place.
Your, which uncle is this?
John Joe's.
And how long did he live there?
He lived about, 23, 24 years.
And where was this homestead located? Where was this home at?
In Bismarck. They moved to Bismarck, but this is on the farm.
Do you remember anything about these buildings? And the house?
Not really. It was a nice big 2-story house. 5 rooms upstairs, and I don't know how many, 5 downstairs. Basement, it was a big home.
Did your grandmother have a garden or anything?
Yeah, they had a garden, but I can't remember much.
Okay. Alright. John, what is this a picture of?
This is my dad unloading hay in the barn in the winter months. That's when I was in the service. They had a tough winter, a lot of snow.
What do you remember about working in the winter on the farm?
Well, we plowed snow, we cleaned barn, milked cows, and hauled grain with the horses. Plowed with the horses. I seeded with the grain drills.
Now, there are 2 individuals in this photo. Do you know who the other one is?
Pardon?
There are 2 people in this photo. Do you know who the other one is?
Could be my brother Paul.
Is this one your father?
I think this is my dad.
And who is this in this photo, John?
My mother and dad, and my brother and sister, youngest.
And which brother and which sister?
Wendland and Maribeth Perella.
Maribeth?
Maribeth Perella.
Were they maybe going to church or something?
Maybe they were. I don't know. I was in service when this took place.
Did your father, did he always have that car? Or did he have that after you left?
He had that after I left.
And who are the three individuals in this photo?
Well, the short guy is me. Next, my sister Johanna. And my brother Paul.
And do you know what you were doing this day?
We first come on Holy Communion.
Your first Holy Communion? The three of you?
Yeah, well, we made the second and my sister went this first.
Do you remember what year this was?
I don't, that was in 39.
Now, I noticed your sister is wearing white. Was that
Yeah, it's the
typical?
first Holy Communion.
And what does the white symbolize in the church?
First Holy Communion service. I mean, that's all I...
Okay, and this is out on the farm. Who's working with the horses?
This is my brother, Wendland, with the team of horses. They mailed that to me when I was in the service.
And what did your brother do on the farm?
We helped my dad.
Did he train the horses at all?
No, my dad trained him.
What do you remember about working on the farm and leading horse teams?
I had mentioned it before. We worked with horses and plowed and seeded crop.
Do you remember much about your brother at this age?
No, I was gone when he... There was 13 years spread. I wasn't home no more.
Okay, John, can you tell me where this is?
This is the barn that we milked cows and had horses in there, and we made our living out.
And what are those barns still standing today?
No,
What happened to them?
it was torn down halfway, and then we burned it a year ago. It's wrecked. It's all rotted out.
What do you remember the most about working on the farm when you were younger?
Well, when they moved it in, I remember they were stuck in the low places so much. And when we set it down and how we remodeled it and worked on it.
Okay, and this is the same barn we just saw in
Right.
the last photo. What can you tell me about it?
Well, here they're doing reshingle the roof. A contractor out of Bismarck came down and shingled the roof, put new shingles on it.
Do you know around what year they reshingled it?
48, I didn't believe.
Did any of your brothers help, or was this
No,
was this the first time they reshingled it?
yes, I believe so.
Okay, and did you keep the horses in this barn, or
Yeah.
which animals would you keep in here?
We kept the horse in the middle and the cows in the side shed, and cows the other side shed.
Do Do you know who the individual is on the left side of the photo?
No, I don't.
Okay, and who do we have here, and what is he doing?
This is my brother Paul. He's getting ready to go in the field with the horses. I don't know what they were doing. That was sent to me when I was in the service.
And how much older were you than Paul?
A year and 4 months.
And what is that in the left side of the picture?
That's the windmill.
Is that still standing on?
No, that's gone.
And this was at the old farmstead,
Yep.
correct? Okay. And what is happening in this picture?
This is my dad, and I believe it was in the 50. At 51 when they had so much snow. He's chopping out the ice in the stock tank to water the cattle.
Was that a common occurrence?
Right.
Did you ever have that job?
Yeah, I had it. I see Dad's got the hatchet in his hand.
So this was definitely part of a typical winter.
Yep.
Then. What was the process you just take of chopping out the...
We chopped the ice open and we threw it out. So the cows they didn't like the ice with the waters, so they could drink.
And that's the old barn and the old windmill then?
Yep. Yes.
And who is it in this photo?
Them are my parents.
Do you know around when this picture was taken?
It was taken between 47 and 48, I believe.
What do you remember the most about your parents?
I can really relate back when the company just done a lot of singing.
What kind of singing? What songs would they sing?
German.
German songs. Did you grow up singing German songs?
I know I can go along with it, understand some, not all, very little.
Did you, were your parents pretty fond of music then as a whole?
Mother was.
Did any of you or your siblings ever learn?
No.
And what is this a photo of?
This is the St. Anthony Church, where we belong to, where we made our first communions and confirmation, which the church is no more there.
And when did it
In
start?
67.
Is that when it was torn down, or was it torn down later?
That's when it was split up, and then later on it was torn down.
Are there any buildings still standing around it?
No.
What about the cemetery?
The cemetery's there, yeah. The cemetery's kept up by the Napoleon Parish and the shrine.
How often do they go out there and take care of it?
Depends on the rainfall, sometimes 4 times a week to cut the grass, keep it up.
And what do you remember the most about St. Anthony's?
Well, we had some good parties down there.
What kind of parties?
Music, they hired a band, and we went down, they had a hall, and we danced.
And what is this?
This is a shrine on the highway that was put up by Father Boldy. It's more or less now a landmark. Directions, we use it a lot. And a lot of passerby stopped by and looked at it, and looking at it. We got some statues in there. And keep it up.
Who built it?
Who built it? Mike Spurley, I believe, was the main carpenter. And Cher, there was a brick building.
Is this a family photo, John?
Yes, this is my mother's family.
And were these all of her siblings and her mom?
Right. Mother was sick already at that time.
Can you identify the individuals in the photo?
Yes.
Can we start on the back row?
Adam. Carl. Sebastian. Andrew. John.
You know, in the front row?
Johanna. Helen. Grandma. Mother. And Mary.
Mary. And what do you remember about your aunts and uncles?
Right now I can't think of much. I knew real well all of them. Carl is my confirmation sponsor. So,
What about your grandmother?
Grandma. Can't think of anything right now.
Okay, John, what is happening in this photo?
This is a wedding, I believe it's my brother's wedding.
Which brother?
Paul's.
And who is in this photo here?
One with the shot glass is John Bitts.
Who's
I don't know. Nick. Andrew Joes.
the two?
Andrew Joes.
Okay.
John Bitts. I think they sent that picture to make me more homesick.
And this is when you were in the service?
Yep.
Do you know around what year that was you got married?
That was 52.
And what can you tell us about traditional Germans from Russia weddings?
Well, there was a dinner. First went to church, they all got married in the morning. Then we went to the hall, and we had dinner, music all day, and supper, and danced some more.
Did you like the dances?
Like good dances.
What kind of dances would they usually do?
Polkas, waltz, two-steps.
And when did you learn to dance?
I learned when I was young. I don't know, we got to a barn dance, we got out.
And how did you like those barn dances?
I loved them.
What do you remember about those the most?
I wasn't into many, but I wasn't one of them. But that's where I started dancing. I started going and start dancing, and then start going to every dance there was.
So it was an enjoyable time for you.
Right.
All right, and who is this in this photo?
This is my wife, Dolores.
And what about this photo?
I don't know,
would you like to tell us?
she took that picture, sent it to me when I was in the service. I think she had a good guy going.
Do you know what year that was?
I was in the late 52, 53.
And whose home was this?
That's at her home, at her home.
And how did you meet your wife?
Dance floor.
Can you explain how?
Not really. Met her on the dance floor. And I left for service.
And she kept in touch?
Yeah. Well, we were neighbors. We knew before we were neighbors. Not too close neighbors, but we were.
All right. And where is this?
This is in our farm.
Is this your car?
This is my car, yeah. And I believe it's Sunday afternoon.
What can you tell us about the old farm? What do you remember?
Well, there were a lot of things going on. We had all our family there. And made our living.
And this is obviously you in your service uniform.
Yep.
When did you enter the service?
51, November.
And where were you when this photo was taken?
I took my training in Fort Snelling. No, excuse me. Missouri, Missouri,
Fort Missouri?
Fort Leonard Wood.
And what do you remember about the service?
Too much. But anyway, after my training, I shipped out to California, to Camp Stone, California. But there I got my orders to go to Alaska. And out of 68 white guys, out of 68, there was 12 white guys, and I was one of them. The rest were color people, and I wasn't used to color people.
Did that shape what you thought of people from around the U.S.?
Yeah, I had to live, got along with them.
Were there a lot of other farm kids in the service?
No. Yeah, there were a lot of them, but I didn't know nobody.
Okay, and what are you doing in this picture?
Snack time before going to bed, I was hungry for different food. I think it was eating sardines.
Was that a typical snack?
Yeah.
What other kinds of food would you eat?
Pardon?
What other kinds of food would you eat while in the service?
Well, we ate everything, but the snack time, that was, right, hungry sardines. And I went down to PX and bought me sardines.
And where were you? Were you in your bunk?
Yeah, on the footlog of my bunk.
And how many other men did you share a room with?
This place, first after last, there were 750 men barracks. Company A, Company B, I was Company A. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how many, there was quite a while, I can't remember, it was a while.
Okay, and what's happening in this photo?
We were out in the field, and we were lunchtime.
And was that typical? What was the typical uniform?
K ration. This was fatigues.
What did you usually wear with your uniform?
Tie, my suit, uniform. When we went out, when we went to the field, it was just fatigues, whatever you wore every day. It's a cold day today.
And where was that? What field?
That was, I believe that was in Fort Leonard Wood.
So were you still in training at this point?
Yeah.
Can you describe a little bit of the training?
Oh. You marched a lot, walked a lot. I know one night we made 7 miles, 45 minutes. We got out and, what do we call it, bivouac. I know it's a lot, forgot a lot.
Yeah. How long were you in the service?
2 years. I was drafted.
Now where, is this also Fort Leonard Wood?
No, this is in Alaska where inspection.
And what are all the soldiers doing?
Inspection.
What are
We
they
had
doing with the
had
team?
our stuff laid out for inspection.
Okay. What it consisted of a typical inspection? What would they do?
They come through and check your stuff, what you had in your gear and your rifle better cleaned up.
What would happen if?
Oh, we'd have got penalized.
How?
Or duty or any cleaning rifles or some darn thing.
Did you ever have to do any of those?
Oh yeah, I got caught.
So what kind of duties did you end up with?
KP.
And is this your barracks?
Right.
Is this, can you describe a typical barracks?
Well, I can't remember how many people lived in it, but anyway, that's where we made our home. We had 3 stoves, little pot belly fuel stoves in it, and we had to see that the fuel gets in there and clean up, and single bunks, and it's livable.
Mm-hmm. And who's?
That's me.
That's you out front?
Yeah.
Alright. And what's happening in this photo here?
This dog race is where we got out. The dog race in town in Anchorage. So we went to town to see the dog races on a Sunday afternoon.
And these were every Sunday?
I don't know if they were every Sunday. It just happened to be that Sunday we got out. I don't know, when we found out, we went.
Did you ever dog sled? Did you ever dog sled yourself?
No. We had a sled riding, but not a dog sled.
Okay, what are you doing in this picture?
I'm checking the oil, ready to go to work in the morning.
Did you usually do that every day before work?
Yeah, that was a must.
What would happen if you didn't?
I don't know, I never found out.
Never wanted to?
Never wanted to.
What do you remember about this, what is it, a Jeep?
It's a 2-ton, 4-ton truck, automatic, new, 3,000 miles on it.
Did you drive them every day?
For a while I did, yeah.
Okay, and what are you doing in this picture here?
Here we had a little time off, and I don't know, we were goofing off, and the tide, somebody familiar with the tide in the ocean, that comes out every so many hours and goes back in, and the tide was way out, so we backed the truck in for the heck of it.
Were you afraid you wouldn't get it out?
Well, it was hard, but we all had fun. Nobody got caught.
What would have happened had you gotten caught?
I don't know, it wouldn't have been good. That salt water, they didn't care for salt water.
Did it mess up the truck when you got it back?
Not really, not what we seen. Nobody cared for nothing.
Okay, so this is you and your children.
You're right.
Can you tell me which kids these are from the left to the right?
Diane is in the right. Darlene is in the left. Doreen. And Donna's the smallest one.
And you remember what year that was about?
No, I don't. Maybe it's on the
64.
picture. 64.
And where were you headed? Was this a family vacation?
No, it wasn't family. It just happened to be around, I guess, and they took pictures in front of the house. I don't know.
Do you know who took the picture?
The wife must have, or else she'd have been on.
Okay, and what, you're obviously on a piece of equipment here.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Getting ready to swat grain on my first self-fell swatter.
Can you describe what that is?
Well, it's something you turn the grain to windrows and waited for it to dry up to pick up with the combine.
And who's sitting there with you in the...
That's me.
There's a little one in there.
I don't know which one of the kids that got long hair.
Okay. And this is you with your horse team?
Yep, last team of horses.
Did you have to sell this team? What happened to the farm after that?
Well, I replaced with tractors.
What kind of how big of a change was that for you?
Well, I done it before. I never had enough use for the horse. I just used when I had time. And then things, they got out of hand. There was too much of a bother. I mean, they chased the milk cows around. And then one guy opened the gates all the time, and he took off for the highway. So I had to get rid of him. Didn't have enough use for him. But I hate to give him up for such a nice team.
Was that one of your best teams?
I had better teams when I was home, but I was one of the prettiest teams I had. Never had a team like that.
What time of year was this?
That could have been in the late 70s. Sold them with the harness and everything.
Did you sell all of your harnesses and
Yeah.
such after that?
I just had to use one team to the next, but I sold the harness with the horses.
Oh, okay.
It took the horse family.
Mm-hmm. John, where is this?
This is my farm.
And what can you tell us about the buildings in this picture?
Well, the house was sold. The kids put a new one on after we left. And the barn's still there. I built the barn. And I built the silos. Had them built. We made our living out, made a good living out of it. This is the picture when we left the farm.
Who took this picture?
Airplane.
And is the land in the backdrop yours?
Yep.
Now, what kind of animals did you raise on this farm?
Mostly dairy. All dairy.
And how did that work?
We're good. Had a modern barn. I had the barn cleaner with a manure pit, running water, drinking cups.
What do you miss the most about it?
I enjoyed the barn.
The smells and...
The cows, now I don't miss it, but I did.
Anything else you want to add about the farm?
Not really.
Okay, John, who is this? You're in this photo. Who are you with?
This is my brothers and sisters.
Can you tell me who's in this photo?
First of all, this is my brother, Wendland. It's me. Next is Paul, brother Paul. My sister Johanna,
And next to you on the back row?
and my sister Maribeth Perella.
What are some of the best memories you have of growing up with your brothers and sisters? Would you play any interesting games, or?
Well, we really didn't. We went out and visiting her and played cards. Not with the two small ones, me and Paul. Got together and played cards.
What kind of card games would you play?
West, Pinochle.
Who usually won?
Pardon?
Who usually won?
Well, it depends on.
And what were your sisters like as children?
Well, she never played cards, my sister. I wish she would have. She's a widow now, but she never played cards. We went up to the neighbors' Burley's and on Magdalena. She never played cards, so they sat and talked, and we played cards. And the other two were too young. I mean, we left home then.
John, can you tell me where we are today?
We are 11 miles south and 3 miles west and a quarter mile south of Napoleon.
And what is the cemetery?
St. Anthony Cemetery.
And what happened to the church that was here by the cemetery?
We lost our pastor. He got moved, and the church closed up. There was nobody to replace him.
And then when did the church go away?
In 67. And a year later we sold it, and it was torn down. And that was, later on it was used for a gravel pit.
Now, who in your family is buried in this cemetery?
My grandpa chose, my uncle, and my parents, and a brother.
And right now we're going to visit your grandfather. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
He left the old country, Russia, and as a 19-year-old boy, because he was called to serve his country. And he escaped and came over here as a single man.
That took a lot of courage.
Him and a cousin. That's the only relatives he had.
And they both came over?
That came over with him. Mm-hmm. And later on he got married. And there are about 11 children born to them. And my mother was the second oldest. And she's buried down in this cemetery.
Can you show me where your grandfather is buried?
Right here. I guess he died in 1925 at the age of 46.
What did he die from?
Sugar diabetes.
What do you remember most about your grandfather?
Before my time.
Before your time. Did you ever hear any stories that your mother would share with you?
Very few. I mean, they were all single. They didn't say much. They just, later on, what I picked up from their relatives. Mother died at the age of 57 from stomach cancer in 64. And my dad died in 80 of aneurysm or stroke at the age of 75.
What were your parents like?
They're German from Russia. My dad came to this country at the age of 3 months, I guess, with his folks. And Grandpa Becker is buried in the other cemetery in Napoleon. He came to this country with 6 kids. And my dad, there were 2 born in this country from their family on my Becker side.
So you have a lot of family in the area then?
Yeah, we have a lot of family in the area. Them younger generations, they all spread out different states. But my mother's family, there are only 2 left. And on my dad's side, they're all gone.
John, can you tell us who this is here?
This is my Uncle Joe. And the only thing I can remember of, I was staked out in school over there with Grandma Joe's. And when he was sick, and he died when I stayed at the house. I made my first grade, and he died in 1936. That's when I went to school over there. And the reason I was over there, because there was no school where my parents lived. There weren't enough people, kids to go to school. There was only 2 of us. So I was put out at my grandma's house, and the other was put out in some of their relatives in town. So he died of sugar diabetes in January 1936.
And what...
36 and 37. Excuse me. He died in 37 in January.
What do you remember the most about your uncle?
Well, we wrestled around when he felt a little better and played around. I mean, the only thing I can remember of. And I remember when he died in the morning on a morning. I don't know what day of the year it was. And I remember when they went and got the doctor from town, I was looking out the window. It was stormy, the roads were blocked to pick up a doctor, but there was no help for his disease.
What do you remember about his funeral?
I don't. I was too small. It was cold. My folks took me someplace took us, there's more, but they took us someplace for babysit. I don't know. It was a darn cold that winter.
Was this your mother's brother?
My mother's brother, yeah.
Was he younger or older?
He was younger. He was one of the, gotta think, fifth one, I think, the family.
Of how many?
Of 11, I think.
Did your mother talk about him often?
She talked not much. I don't know. We never had much interest. I don't know. I know he worked for my dad one spring of the year. We were small kids.
Remember what he did with your dad?
He helped farming. Fix fence and stuff out there. A little. That's all I can remember. We were young.
John, this is the gravesite of your mother. What can you tell us about her?
Well, my mother, she died at the age of 57, and it started out with stomach cancer and stroke, and later on she had it all over. She's sick for about 3 years.
What was your mother like?
Human nature, like all mothers, she was a good mother. and she helped chores. She helped on the farm. She was helped chalk, and she did help rake, hay rake when I was in the service. When Dad needed her, she helped milk cows by hand.
What's the fondest memory you have of your mother?
Got a lot of memories. I really can't think of them right now. I mean, she was lovely.
Did your mother, would she make any special meals for the family that you remember?
She always. We always had dinner, soup, chicken, and when the winter time, when it was stormy that we couldn't go to church, we butchered her chickens. She had chicken for dinner. Even on a Sunday afternoon, come home from church with soup, and more or less a tradition. Tradition.
Was your family quite religious?
Yes.
Can you tell us what you would do at church
Pardon?
as a child?
Well, we went to First Holy Communion, was confirmed down here, and I was baptized. Well, I was baptized in Bismarck, but we threw down here.
Were there any particular seating arrangements at the church?
Well, that time, seating, the women were on the left side and the men on the right side, which is now different. Then young people were in front. The older were in the back. Ladies with the young children were in the back, way in the back. Nowadays it's different. I go along with it. I like it better.
When you were younger, would your mother do any special celebrations for birthdays?
Yes, we had birthdays. There wasn't much of a celebration. We got to get together. Wasn't much of a celebration for birthdays. We don't know much of any.
John, can you tell us about your father?
My dad was born in the old country, came over as a 3-month-old baby with his parents and with 6 of his other brothers and sisters. And he married my mother, and he died in 1980 at the age of 75 from a stroke or aneurysm. He was unconscious for about 5 weeks.
How did he and your mother meet? How did he and your mother meet?
I don't know. That was before my time.
Did they ever share any stories?
No, they never did share much stories with us. All I know that they took us to our 4th of July. They took us to my grandma for babysitting, and they went to the 4th of July. And we watched the firecrackers from town. So.
What's your fondest memory of your father?
Well, we worked with horses. We plowed and farmed with horses till 1945. He bought the first tractor. Then in 1950, he done away with the horses when I went to the service. And after I come home, I left home, and he was batching. He was a widow for 18 years, and batching with his brother. We were close by. We lived about 1.5 miles south of the home place. So we got to go back and forth, work together for first few years till I got started. He's a nice father. Great father.
Was he a strict disciplinarian?
Oh yeah? Oh yeah. He was strict, yeah.
How so?
We got it a few times.
You and your siblings?
Pardon?
You and your brothers and sisters?
Yeah. I get it a lot.
Were you the adventurous one?
Yeah. But anyway, that's all behind us.
John, where are we standing now?
We're standing on my brother's grave. It's in the Anthony Cemetery.
What can you tell us about your brother?
Well, he had a tough life after him and my dad batched together till my dad passed away, and he was alone out there, and he was sick. I mean, he was schizophrenic, and he wouldn't take his medication. But anyhow, later on we had him in the nursing home. He was in the state hospital, and finally he had a heart attack, and he died at the farm.
What was your brother like?
He high temper. I mean, we had to watch what we had to say. We tried to take care of him, but he wouldn't accept nothing. It was hard to live with. And he lived alone. He was batched, so he had a tough life.
And he was your baby brother?
His second youngest.
What do you remember the most about him?
Well, when he was born, he was in the hospital 3 months before mother took him home. He was only weighed a pound, I guess, and some ounces. He was incubator baby for 3 months, I think, before we brought him home mother brought him home to the home. And later on, he was a grown man. I mean, he never got married. He was single. So he was the last one to leave the farm.
Do you remember how old he was when he left the farm?
He died. He was there all the time. I mean, until we had to take him for help for 2 years. 2 years. He was on the farm till 2 years before he died.